Hi, Gary Peace here from ESID Consulting, and I just wanted to give you my final commentary on the BBC TV programme The Line of Duty, which is a programme that looks at a covert police anti-corruption unit that are tasked with targeting corruption at the highest levels within the police service. And I'm giving you from my perspective, having been a serving anti-corruption officer within the Metropolitan Police at Scotland Yard. So what we saw, episode 6, the final episode, and the infamous H that everyone's been after actually doesn't exist. It seems that it's actually 4 particular individuals who are corrupt within the police service, 3 of whom have now been captured, and there is 1 still at large. That's really great because essentially it means there's going to be another series, which I'm really looking forward to. So there's a few things that came up within this particular episode that I want to touch on and give you my perspective. Firstly, we have the lack of objectivity shown by Detective Chief Superintendent Alison Powell, who was hell-bent on proving Ted Hastings' guilt and proving that he was the H and that he was corrupt. Well, she got it wrong. And this is a really pertinent lesson for anyone involved in internal investigations, is that you have to look at everything objectivity. Your job is to prove or disprove an allegation or offence, and that if you don't follow the evidence, you may well end up coming to an incorrect and unjust conclusion. The next thing I want to talk about is and it's a question that I've been asked quite a few times in the past, is who watches the watchers? What I mean by that is that you have police anti-corruption units who are tasked with investigating police. Well, the question's been asked, well, who investigates the anti-corruption teams? And we saw that in this episode, in that effectively there are multiple anti-corruption investigation teams and they operate independently and autonomously of each other. And that's certainly the case in the Metropolitan Police, where there are a number of teams tasked with investigating corruption at the highest levels, but they act independently. And that's the way it should be. What that means is that if there is a corrupt individual that needs looking at on one of the other teams, or indeed there's an allegation made against the team itself, then another completely independent anti-corruption team will become involved and will investigate, or should investigate. I don't believe it's a job for an independent third party. I think the police should be investigating themselves because they're the best ones to do it. They know the techniques, they know the shortcuts, they know the loopholes. Quite often they'll know the individual is involved, and they can bring that objectivity and that balance and that knowledge to that particular case so that the right decisions are made. So that's who investigates the watchers. What I also want to talk about is the fact that, and this came into focus in this particular programme, is the subject of supergrasses and informants, or covert human intelligence sources, CHIS for short. It seems that Superintendent Ted Hastings may have developed a too close a relationship to one of his informants in the past, and because of that, or partly because of that, she was killed by the provisional IRA in days gone by. But we also saw that the role of the supergrass, in that Jill Bigelow was proved to be the number 3 in the organisation who was corrupt, and towards the end of this particular programme, it was shown that she is now living under a new identity. Well, that's what happens when people give or turn Queen's evidence and become supergrasses for the most serious offences that have occurred. And quite often, the only reason it's done is because this is the only way of proving a case against somebody, is to have someone on the inside who has decided to, in order to reduce their sentencing, to give evidence against the rest of the organisation. And this is what's happened in this case. Now, to run a Supergrass and to manage these cases, it's extremely expensive, it's extremely time consuming, and it's extremely risky to the police force involved, because essentially they're taking on a known criminal who has sometimes committed the most serious offences, and they are trusting them to provide them information, which means they have to double check, triple check, and source everything that is being told to them so that they can ensure themselves that what they're being told is the truth. In return, the Supergrass gets a new identity, they get a new life, and they get a reduced sentence. What it does mean also that they have to cut off all contact with their previous lives, so it's not as simple and straightforward as some people may think. But it's vital in the tools that law enforcement use to tackle the most serious organised crime that we have to face. The next thing I want to talk about is PC Ryan Pilkington. He was a member of the organised crime group who we've seen, as in previous episodes, he is responsible for murdering people. As I indicated in my last video, I thought he was applying to join the police and to be infiltrated into the police service. And it seems I was correct, because in this episode we see him going for his interview, passing and being accepted to police training college, where we see him marching up and down in his police uniform. Now, this is a real and serious and ongoing issue for police forces around the country. That is, that organised crime groups are attempting to infiltrate their people, into police service ranks in order to disrupt cases, to steal evidence, and so that organised crime can have influence on investigations further down the line. But actually, it's also a problem for companies and for organisations. Foreign intelligence services, other organisations who you might be in competition with, are and do actively seek to embed their own staff and their own people within your organisations in order to obtain your IP and your intellectual property and sensitive information. The only way to tackle it is to have an insider threat management program, to have vetting in place, and to have proper governance of your systems. And that's the only way it's going to be solved. And then lastly, just to wrap up, I just want to touch on, and it was quite an interesting one, and it was, you quite often hear about this, that something is thrown out of court because of a technicality. And this is what we saw in the interview room between Alison Powell and Detective Superintendent Hastings, in that the money that was in his hotel room was thrown out of the evidence because they used the wrong powers in order to seize it. And this is where it's really essential that whoever investigates within an organisation needs to know the rules and needs to know the laws and what they're allowed to do and not do. Because if you don't get it right at the very start and you don't dot the I's and cross the T's, then you're in severe danger of losing your case and losing the evidence. Well, that's my take on Line of Duty. It was a great series, and I look forward to the next one. Thank you.